Have you ever noticed how quickly we define worship as just music? When someone says, let's worship, most of us immediately think of songs, instruments, or even a moment in a church service. But what if worship is far deeper than that? What if what we call worship is a small part of something much greater? Today, I want to challenge and expand our understanding. Worship is not just an activity we participate in, it is a lifestyle of response to God that involves our hearts, our actions, and our entire lives. To help us understand this further, I will explain three ideas: what worship truly is, how worship is expressed beyond music, and why worship is the highest calling to a believer. To begin, we need to define worship correctly. Worship is not just primarily about what we do, it's about our response to who God is. According to John M. Frame, in Worship in Spirit and in Truth, worship is the human response to the divine presence. In other words, worship begins with God revealing Himself and us responding. This means that worship is not something we create, it's something we give back. Evelyn Underhill, in her book Worship, explains that true worship is the total adoring response of man to the one eternal God. Notice the word total. Worship is not partial, it involves everything. So, worship is not just singing, worship is not just a church moment, worship is not just emotion. It is a response that comes from knowing who God is. Now that we understand what worship is, the next question becomes, how is worship actually expressed in our lives? Worship is more than just music. Music is powerful. It moves us, it connects us, it helps us to express what words alone cannot. Robert E. Weber, in Worship is a Verb, makes this clear when he emphasizes that worship is something we do, not just something we attend. It's active, not passive. So worship happens when you obey God, even when it's hard, when you serve others, when you live with integrity, and when your life becomes a reflection of your faith. Rory Nolan, in The Worshipping Artist, explains that leading worship is not about performance, it is about authenticity. He stresses that true worship flows from a heart that is surrendered, not from skill or talent. Let me say this again clearly. You can sing and not worship, but you cannot truly worship without your heart being involved. This shifts everything. Worship becomes a daily lifestyle, a mindset, a constant awareness of God. So, if worship is a response and a lifestyle, then why is it so important? Why does it matter so much? Worship is the highest calling of a believer. Worship is not just something Christians do, it is who we are called to be. Alfred Gibbs, in Worship, the Christian's Highest Occupation, states that worship is the greatest privilege given to humanity. It is our highest calling because it places God in the center of everything. Think about it. Out of everything we could do, serve, preach, lead, worship is the highest. Why? Because Worship focuses entirely on God, not on us. And this shifts our perspective from self centered to God centered, from temporary to eternal, from routine to relationship. Evelyn Underhill also emphasizes that worship transforms the one who participates in it. When we worship truly, we are changed, and that is the key. Worship is not just about expressing something to God, it is becoming more like Him. When worship becomes a lifestyle, your decisions change, your priorities change, your attitude changes. You begin to live differently because you are constantly aware of God's presence. So now we've seen what worship is, how it goes beyond music, and why it is so important. Now let's bring it all together. Today we started off with a simple but powerful idea. Worship is more than music. We have learned that worship is expressed through our entire lives, not just songs. Worship is the highest calling we have as believers. So the real question should not be, did I worship during service? The real question should be, am I living a life of worship? Because worship doesn't end when the song stops. It continues in the way you speak, the way you act, the way you treat others, the way you live your life every single day. I want to leave you with this thought. Worship is not just a moment, it is a lifestyle. It is not just something you do, but it is who you are becoming. So the next time you hear the word worship, don't just think about a song. Think about your life, because that is your true act of worship.